The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening to you wherever you are. This is Comfortably Zoned Radio, and you're listening to the 50s, when Bums and Jints walk the streets of New York. I'm Peter Trunk, and my co-hosts are Ron Rabinovitz and Ralph Tyko. Ron, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Peter? Good to talk.
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Good.
Doing fine. It's not so cold in New Jersey anymore. Tomorrow's going to be 64 degrees, 65 degrees.
Yeah, today was 43 in Minneapolis. So
well,
I feel so guilty being in California. We're in the 60s.
Don't rub it in, Ralph. Ralph and Jack are in California.
Ralph Tyko, how are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty well. Jack, our guest, I'm going to answer your question. I'm in the northern part, in Alameda, California, which is a little island adjacent to Oakland, right off Oakland, across the bay from San Francisco. Where are you, Jack?
I'm down here in Redondo Beach.
Oh,
nice.
Very pretty down there.
A little below Los Angeles.
Right.
Beautiful.
I'm going to introduce you to Peter Trunk. You've been on the airwaves before. Peter Trunk, Jack O Halloran. And,
Jack, nice to meet you.
My pleasure.
We were dying to get you back. Thanks, Ronnie, for bringing your buddy. And,
you bet. Thank you, Jack, for coming back on.
Yeah, Peter has a bundle of questions for you. And I'm going to
well, first I'd like to thank you, Ralph. Thank you. I do. I have a host of questions. But first I'd like to let all our listeners know exactly who we have on. They're probably scratching their heads by now saying, who's this Jack? Well, we have a guy. His name is, in fact, Jack. His last name is O Halloran. He is a boxer, an actor, and a writer. And how are you, Jack, and welcome to the show.
I'm very well. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Your book that I just ordered off of Amazon, Family Legacy, I read reviews of it. I read some of it as much as I was allowed to on the website. But like I said, it's coming in the mail. I heard it was going to be a trilogy. Is it in fact a 3-part book?
Yeah, we're doing the other 2. Actually, it's probably going to wind up being 4 books.
Okay.
Really good.
We're doing 2 right now, and then the other one will come right behind it. So we're probably going to write all 3 more books, bam, 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 and then just put them out, every 6 months or whatever.
Right.
Wonderful.
I think, I heard so many good things about it, and the little that I have read, as soon as I get it, of course, I'm going to read it cover to cover, but the little I have read, I have to agree with some of the reviews says it's a modern-day The Godfather by Mario Puzo. Is that a stretch?
No, it's actually probably a few layers above him. Mario's a nice guy, but he wrote what he was told to write, and what we're writing is what I lived and a lot of truth that people have been dying to hear for a long time. So we're just we're gonna open up the door and tell some true stories about the growth of a country. It's not just an organized crime book. It's government, industry, organized crime, and unions, how they were all partners, and how a lot of the illicit money that was made by organized crime was put back into the growth of a country by creating a lot of jobs. They controlled all the unions and construction, and they fed a lot of companies. They invested in a lot of insurance companies and General Electric and Westinghouse and Sears and Roebuck. So they actually created revenue streams in the country, because when you stop to think about it, it makes common sense. And in the beginning of their trials, their revenue deal was gambling and extortion and things like that. So if you didn't have money, how could you pay them? So they got the job, making sure you went to work.
Jack, when they invested in these companies, and we're talking, for lack of a better word, the mafia, am I correct?
Well,
whose names were used on the transactions? And for those that don't know, your dad was pretty high up in the organization, wouldn't you say?
Albert? Albert climbed the ladder pretty high. He was. Albert was a unique individual, and again, he controlled the waterfronts. So he made sure that everybody worked down on the waterfronts. He controlled the union for years, and then he handed it over to his brother Tony.
You want to give his full name, Jack, for our audience? All we're saying is Albert. You're not saying Anastasia. Our audience needs to know. Jack O Halloran, Jack O Halloran, who wrote Family Legacy, is our guest, and he's discussing the book right now. I heard that part of the book delves into the assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy in 1963.
Well,
in Dallas.
We opened the book up with the death of my father, and I ended the first book with the death of Kennedy. And we tell the truth about the Kennedy assassination,
All right.
Which is a lot of truth that has never been divulged about Jack Kennedy and his whole situation. And, I kind of like Jack. Jack was a hell of a politician, and he was a good guy.
He sure was.
You're right.
You didn't have much use for his brother.
Well, his brother was his father's puppet. If you were going to ask a question as to who was the one individual who was responsible for John Kennedy's death, it would be his father, Joe.
Joe, yeah, that's right.
Because Jack Kennedy, actually, people don't know this. It's coming out. They're starting to find it out. But the truth of the matter is, he wouldn't have lived his presidency out. He was dying. They used to shoot him up every day. He had Addison's disease. He had 4 different diseases. And, and it was... and he suffered. He suffered a lot. Like I said, they shot him up every day. But when he was going to Dallas, Texas, 4 people, one of them being Adlai Stevenson, went to Bobby and said, do not let your brother go to Texas because the animosity down there is very, very bad. Adlai Stevenson had been in Houston, and they were spitting at him. So he said, you should not let your brother go to Texas. So, and people say, well, why would the animosity be so bad down there? Joe, his father, you have to go back to, the beginning, how Joe Kennedy was put under thumb by Chicago back in the 20s, and then all through the course of years, down at the point to where when Jack Kennedy was going to run for president, people wanted Nixon to run for president because they had a control on Nixon. And his father did a deal with Sam Giancana in Chicago because Chicago had a very serious control over Joe Kennedy. And he made a deal with Giancana that if he help his son become president of the United States, that he would lend him both his ears. In other words, that he'd have a phone into the White House, right? And and when Jack was running the nomination was in California, and Joe Kennedy was supposed to have had all the electoral votes already put in place, and of course he didn't. And the second day of the affair in California, for when they were running for nomination, they called up and they said to Giancana, we got a bit of a problem. And Sam said, I thought you had everything. So for the very first time, and you can look it up in history, Illinois, for the first time, turned Democrat. And 3 other states around it, with phone calls made, they turned Democrat. So after the 3rd day, Joe Kennedy called again and he said, we still have a bit of a problem and there's only one place that can actually put us across the finish line that has enough electoral votes, one state. And for a small state, they control all the electoral votes, West Virginia. And so they said, okay. So a couple phone calls were made to West Virginia because West Virginia had a lot of illegal casinos in it because of all the money with coal and everything. There was a lot of money in the state. So they made some phone calls. They excused some debt. And West Virginia raised their hand, and Jack Kennedy was nominated for President of the United States. But when he was nominated, a guy named H.L. Hunt went out to California with a suitcase full of money, gave it to Joe Kennedy for him to take Johnson as a running mate for Jack Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
And he did that.
A fellow Texan,
yeah. Texas, that was the start of it. Then as soon as Jack Kennedy became president, his father turned around and he said, first, the thing that people kept asking, well, what are you going to do with Bobby? And he said, Bobby's going to become an ambassador to Ireland. Well, of course that didn't happen. He was made Attorney General. And father turned to him and he said, I want you to put all my good friends in jail, including Giancana. So Bobby went on a quest, went after everybody, Hoffa, Giancana, people in New York, everybody. And then they turned around and he said to Jack, listen, those people in Texas, they have far too much money. They're making a fortune off of what you call surplus oil. And you need to levy a tax on them. Well, that tax cost those people somewhere in the neighborhood of $250 million. So they weren't too happy with it.
And that was back then when $250 million
was
a lot of money. So
it wasn't a long-term contract in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, right.
Now, your dad was already gone, right? Your dad was already
gone. 57.
At Park Sheraton Hotel Barbershop, right?
Park Sheraton Hotel Barbershop. That's correct.
Yeah,
he died because he didn't want drugs coming in through his ports. He said, we didn't sign up for this, and they kept saying to him, but it's only business, Albert. And was one of the worst mistakes they ever made because Albert was the glue. He ran Murder Incorporated, and he kept the commission honest, and he was one of the most powerful guys in the country at the time.
He was.
He was. I mean, the Gambino family was the Anastasia family before they became the Gambino family. Gambino was an underboss of my father's. And
I know that in The Godfather, there are a bunch of folks that were portrayed into one, The Godfather.
That's right. That's correct.
Was your dad probably the most, a percentage of The Godfather, the highest percentage?
Yeah, I would say, probably between him and Charlie. He was Charlie Luciano.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Charlie was a very, and I'll tell you the guy, and the other guy was Frank Costello, who was such a smart guy. I mean, Frank had a book, a little black book that you would give your soul for. He had every politician. He had it all marked down. He had everybody labeled. Frank did. There was no flies on Frank Costello. I like Frank a lot. He was a good guy. He was very, very clever. And I like Charlie. And Charlie, Charlie. Everybody thought Charlie Luciano died in 1962 at Naples Airport. He never did die. He faked his own death.
Really?
He came back and he had surgery done. He took the identity of a count in Rome, and he came back to New York several times to straighten some things out that he didn't like that happened. But he was.
That was Lucky Luciano, right?
Yeah, Lucky Luciano.
Charlie, yeah.
Charlie was.
Where was Meyer Lansky in all of this?
Meyer was amazing. I loved Meyer. Meyer was one of the smartest men I ever met in my life. And he looked after me. When my father was assassinated, Meyer became a big part of my life.
Isn't that
and he
nice?
was, he was so bright. And he never wrote anything down. The guy was a trip. He was really, he was one who invested in all the insurance companies, and they funneled the money pretty well. And, he was a smart man, very, very smart man.
I met him at the Singapore Hotel in Miami Beach.
Okay.
That's where I met. Yeah, I met him there a couple of times.
Well, he had a house in Hollywood where his wife lived, and he raised his kid. He had that house forever, but he also had a condominium right behind the fountain, right behind the Fontainebleau.
The Fontainebleau, yeah. Right.
We are talking with Jack O Halloran, the author of Family Legacy. Okay, and fascinating stuff so far. I have to, since the show is not a 4-hour show, Jack, I have to jump around. I have to ask you a whole bunch of questions. One of them is about boxing. Okay. Now, I used to watch on television a guy named Joey Giardello. He was born in Brooklyn. He fought out of Philly. And after Joey retired from boxing, he's in a bar or a restaurant, and a karate guy comes up to him and tells him, "You're not so tough. I know karate."
That was in Cherry Hill.
Can you tell us that story, please?
That's a great story because
tell us that
Cherry
story.
Hill, at a restaurant we all used to hang out at, because at the time we controlled the bartender waiters union over there, and Joey lived in Cherry Hill, and this guy just opened up one of these karate schools. It was when the karate schools first started, and they were looking for ways to publicize and get popular. And the guy's standing in the restaurant, and he's telling Joey how much better karate is than boxing. And Giardello looked at him and he laughed, and he said, "Well, you know what? Let's take a drive over to South Philadelphia to the gym, Passion Moore, to the gym where we all trained at." He said, and well, let's try something out here. And Joey went over in his suit. All he did was take off his suit jacket and got in the ring. And the guy was all pumped up. He's jumping all around, all this stuff. Joey feinted him with a left hook. The guy went for the feint. He dropped the left hook on his head. Knocked him, boom, right on the floor. Knocked him spark out. Got out of the ring and said, "Well, I guess he made the wrong move, huh?"
Were you there?
Oh, yeah. And the problem, what people don't understand is, karate is very straightforward.
Yeah.
Comes at you attack. And boxing is all about feigning and moving side to side and understanding, And Joey just feinted this guy. He threw it like he was throwing a left hand, and the guy went for it, and he came back with a left hook, knocked his ass right on spark out. Spark out.
I love it.
Got out with his coat on, and he bet the guy, I think it was $200. They put a wager up that the guy would last 3 rounds with him. I think it was a $250 bet, something like that. Enough to pay for.
There for a couple of minutes, he was out already, huh?
Sorry?
He was probably in the ring for maybe a minute or two, and he was knocked on his ass, right?
Not just about a minute. That's about all it took. Guy.
Okay.
Oh, I never laughed so hard. That was great. It was terrific.
Jack, let me interrupt because I just have one question for the night. Chances are you met Muhammad Ali in your lifetime.
Oh, he was a very dear friend. We were signed to fight 4 times, actually. He was supposed to fight me in San Diego when he fought Norton. He and I had already come to an understanding and an agreement. He called me on the phone one day, and he said he was with a guy named Gene Kilroy from Vegas who was with him all the time. And he called me up, and he said, "Listen, you got to do me a favor." And I said, "What do you mean do you a favor?" "I'll do you a favor." I said, "Sign a contract, and we'll, whatever favor." And no, he said, "You're fighting my brother next week, and I want you to get him out of boxing." I said, Rahman Ali is your brother? He said, yeah. I said, okay. He said, if you do this favor for me, then you and I will fight in San Diego, because I was California heavyweight champion. And he said, so I said, okay. So I said, I told my trainers, I better go to the gym for a few days, because I used to fight every couple of weeks. I didn't care who was. And so I go in the gym, and I knocked him out in the 9th round and just knocked him. He was never fought again.
Oh, what a story.
And Ali and I made a deal that we were going to fight in San Diego. And then Norton was owned by two very, very wealthy men. One guy called Bob Byron, who owned most of La Jolla, and a guy named Art Rifkin, who owned Coca-Cola down there, and a bunch of other stuff. And they took $3 million. They went to Chicago and with a briefcase, and they gave it to Herbert Muhammad's people, and boom, he was fighting Norton. And he called me up. He was so embarrassed. He said, I don't know how to tell you this. I am so sorry. It's out of my control. Because we had a venue and everything all set. We exchanged telegrams and everything.
Wow.
And he said, but I promise you, I'll find a place for you to fight, ba-bing, ba-bang, and all that stuff, And and then he came to San Diego to fight Norton, and he and I, hung around together because I gave Norton a pretty good beat. And he,
Jack, were you compiling a scouting report on Ali in your head?
No, I knew about him. In fact, he's the reason I started boxing. I was playing football, and I just come down from the Jets. I was going to play in Philadelphia when I was just eligible to play in '65, because when I was playing ball, you couldn't play unless your class graduated from school. There were no hardship cases back then. You couldn't play pro ball until your class graduated. So I left school after my freshman year, and the guy, Webb Eubank, grabbed me up in New York and said, so they put you in it's like a farm system, They had a semi-professional league on the East Coast that consisted of a lot of ball players of the same deal, waiting for their class to graduate. Dick Christie, Jimmy Christie, a whole bunch of people. So we played like 3-4 games a week, both ways to keep your levels up. And when
I know that Peter was a Titan fan early on. I was a Titan fan early on. Dick Christie was a defensive back. I think he wore number 45. I mean, this is 60 years ago, and I still got this stuff coming out of my head.
He went to North Carolina. He was from Philadelphia, the same as I was. And both him and his brother both.
What high school did you go to in Philly?
West Catholic.
And were you familiar with Pearson's Sporting Goods store?
Sure, positively.
My camp buddies own that, and I have a lot of good memories with those folks, and it's probably the best sporting goods store on the East Coast at that time.
They were quite formidable, is right.
They outfitted both the Phillies and the A's when they were playing in Philadelphia, actually.
Philadelphia Athletics. Yeah. Well, you're going back to Robin Roberts' days there.
Absolutely. Robin Roberts and Connie Mack.
Richie Ashburn.
Richie Ashburn. What a ball player Richie Ashburn was. Oh, my God. Imagine, you know how much money he'd make today?
Oh, yeah. Richie Ashburn was terrific. And he was an original New York Met, gentlemen. So,
who was?
Richie
Ashburn.
Really? I didn't know that.
He could hit. I'll tell you something.
He had 301.
I never saw a guy able to pinpoint a baseball like he could. He could punch singles out better than anybody. I never saw anybody get on base like him. He was amazing.
And he was fast.
He was fast. I mean, he could run the bases as well.
Bases, yeah, right. He was a hell of a
Jack, boxing is all hand-to-eye coordination. Football is to a certain extent. You did both of those. Did you play baseball at all?
I never really played baseball. I held a couple track records for the discus and stuff. Track, basketball, and football was most of my sports, and they begged me to go out for wrestling, and I just said I can't play basketball and wrestle at the same time. And the guy got really angry because I had left West Catholic and we moved over to South Jersey when the Walt Whitman Bridge was built. So I graduated from Triton Regional High School in Runnymede, New Jersey, and the wrestling coach was a guy Malone who was a Olympic wrestler. And he begged, man, you got to come out for wrestling. So I did intramural wrestling, and I pinned his heavyweight, who wrestled on his team. I pinned him in like 30 seconds. And they said, whoa, he got so mad at me. God bless him. But basketball, football, and track were my sports. I never played much baseball. Just never got into it.
How'd you get into
We're talking, again, we're talking with Jack O Halloran. And, Jack, I have to ask you, you did a 1975 movie with Robert Mitchum called Farewell, My Lovely.
Oh, great.
And you might have been able to be up for some sort of Academy Award, but Robert Mitchum wanted to get you on the Johnny Carson show, and you couldn't go on the Johnny Carson show. Can you explain that whole thing to us?
The movie, it's really a great film, and it worked really well. It was the first movie I ever did. And thank God for Mitchum. He became like a father. And after the movie came out, he said to me, you should be nominated for a supporting actor. And I said, yeah, well, it's no big deal. He said, no. He said, I want you to go. And he made a meeting for me to meet Johnny Carson at the Polo Lounge in Beverly Hills. And Johnny Carson.
Polo Lounge.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Right.
Johnny Carson had just hooked up with Ed McMahon, who I knew from Philadelphia because we used to buy surplus military stuff from him and sell it to different countries. And he was like a general in the reserves, but he never wanted anybody to know that. When I went in to meet Carson, he said, "Man, don't you and I don't really know each other." I said, "No problem." Down there with Carson, and Johnny was a really nice guy, and he said, Mitchum thinks the world of you, and the film's a great film, and if you come on my show, I can almost guarantee you get a nomination. And I sat there and I said, wow, that's pretty cool. And he said, but I got to ask you a question. I said, you have a live show, don't you? Because it was live then, it wasn't taped.
Yeah.
He said, it's live. I said, well, I don't think I can do your show. He said, what are you talking about? I said, well, I'm going to come out on your show, and you're going to ask me about my father, and I'm going to ask you where the men's room's at. He said, you would get up and leave? I said, yeah. I said, because I don't talk about my father, and I don't want anybody else talking about him because you don't know what you're talking about. And he said, well, wait a minute. He said, we'll arrange the questions we want. I said, whoa, wait a minute. You're the top investigative reporter on television. You have Albert Anastasia's son on your set, and you're not going to ask me about my father? I look like I fell off a turnip truck? I said, I appreciate the offer, I really do, but I said, I don't think it's a workable deal. And he was amazed. He said, and I went home, and Mitchum called me on the phone. He said, are you out of your mind? Who cares? It's Hollywood, Jack. It's Hollywood. Don't you understand? Nobody cares. It would be a wonderful deal. I said, I just wasn't. I had just come off the streets when I went into the movie business, and I just, and I said, I felt, I just couldn't, just didn't, which was really foolish of me. It was very, very, very one of the dumber things I've done in my life, actually. But well, it is what it
Jack,
is.
Tell us a little bit about Marlon Brando.
Brando was great. Brando we did Superman, and Mitchum said to me, "You got to go down and see Marlon. Go down and say hello to him. He knows who you are." He knew my father because he's a real New Yorker, Brando. And so I went down on the set the first day he came out on set, and he was surrounded by newspaper guys and stuff like that. So I walked out on the set. I was going to wait for him to go over and see him, and he stopped everything. He said, I'll be back, guys. I got to go see this guy over here. And he ran over to say hello to me, and I said, wow, man, Jesus. And he and I became very good friends. Marlon was an amazing individual. He was I was very fortunate in my career to have worked with Mitchum and Brando and Jimmy Coburn and Omar Sharif and Hackman and, some very, very good actors. But when Brando walked on the set, you could hear a pin drop. Mm-hmm. And Robert the same way. They had that presence about them, And Brando was I'll tell you a story. I went down to see him work one day, and I never saw another actor ever do this. He's up on the set, and he had cue cards everywhere, up his nose, everywhere. And the camera had a malfunction in it, and Brando just said, just keep rolling that thing until you get it fixed. And he turned around, and then he turned back into the shot and finished it, which I never saw anybody allow anybody to do that before. Then he came down off the set, and I said to him, I guess a lot of people would be a bit shy to ask you this question, but what is with the cue cards, man? I said, are you that bored with the industry that you got to have cue cards all around? Oh, no. He said, I started that on Mutiny on the Bounty. I didn't want the camera to make it look like I knew the line, like I had studied the lines or anything. I wanted to look like I was taking them out of the air. And I looked at him and I laughed, and he stopped and he laughed and he said, well, I said, you're so full of shit, man. He said, and he was a great Shakespearean actor, so he ripped off a couple parables of Shakespeare, word for word. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and he said, that you must know word for word. This stuff, piece of cake. he was aloof in a way for things, but he was just a dynamic actor and a super individual. I had a lot of time for Marlon. I liked him quite a lot.
That's
now,
a great
you've
story.
said nice things about a whole bunch of folks. Before I ask you about Mr. Reeves, I want to ask you about James Coburn. Did you know him when he was in the movie Pendulum?
No, I met Jimmy. We did the Baltimore Bullet together. Okay. We did a movie about.
I had a cousin produce a movie Pendulum with James Coburn.
When was it done?
It probably before 65 when you were.
Oh no, I didn't. I wasn't in the business then. I wasn't even.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, 1968. 1968. They tried to get me in. Well, actually, right before that, the first film they came to me to do was Steve McQueen did the Thomas Crown Affair in Boston.
Oh, I love that movie. Yeah. With James Seymour.
And we took care of him. When he was there, we took care of him because Faye Dunaway was in the movie.
Faye Dunaway, all right.
We took care of him. We watched out for him when he came into Boston, and he and I became very good friends. And I was just starting my boxing career, and I was living up in Boston. And he said, "Man, come down to the set, and I want you to put you in the movie. I'll get you your SAG card. You got to come to Hollywood, man. We'll have a ball." Because Steve was an amazing kid. I really had a lot of time for Steve. So he kept saying to me, I said, "Nah, man, it's not for me. It's not, not where my head is at. Too many things I'm doing." And so he went back to Hollywood and he did a picture called Towering Inferno, and his name was Captain O Halloran. He called me on the phone. He said, "How'd you like your name up on the screen? Didn't you think, Con, you got to come out here?" Then they offered me a picture of the Great White Hope with James Earl Jones, and the deal was done. Raymond Patriarca, I found out later. They put a deal together. Eddie Ford III was the casting director at Fox, and this was one of the biggest movies in Hollywood, The Great White Hope. And so they called me on the phone. They said, "I want you to come out here and meet the producer." So they flew me out, and I sat down. But it was all I had to do was sign the contract. Gambino's nephew was out in California working with in the industry, and he was going to. He said, well, I'll just tell them I'm your agent. I'll get 10%. They'll pay me on the side. And the guy, the stunt coordinator was an old mafia guy, and he was an old fighter, and he said, this is the guy, you got to use him, blah, blah, blah. So the deal was done. All I had to do was say, yeah, okay, and sign the deal. But they wanted me to go to Spain for 6 months, and I had just knocked out Manuel Ramos, who was number 2 in the world. And I'm looking for a title fight, and these guys want me to quit boxing. And then they said to me, I said, well, you know, we want you to go to Spain for 6 months. We're going to pay you, I think it was $1,500 a week or something like that. So I looked at the producer. I said, you know, I'll tell you what. There's a guy named Jim Beattie who just retired from boxing. Nice kid, big, tall kid lives up in St. Paul, Minneapolis. He's got 6 mouths to feed. He needs a job. Call him up. He says, what? You're going to tell me no? And I said, well, you know, you want me to go to Spain for 6 months. I just knocked out the number 2 ranked heavyweight in the world. You want to give me $1,500? I give that away in tips every week. So what are you giving me? You're giving me nothing. And Eddie Ford III was scared. Oh my God! I went outside the office. He said, "Jack, you're going to get me killed. You're supposed to do this movie. They want you off the street." I said, I'll talk to the old man back east. Don't worry about it. Just, you know. Okay. Walking out of Fox, and I'm walking down the steps, and James Earl Jones is coming up the steps in the Fox, and he stopped me. He said, Jack O Halloran, the fighter? I said, yeah. I said, James Earl Jones, the actor? He said, yeah. I said, is it true what I just heard about you? I said, I don't know. It depends on what you heard. He said, you just told Hollywood to stick the biggest movie being made up the air. You just told these guys to shove the movie? I said, well, if you want to look at it that way. He said, I got to shake your hand. I never met anybody who told Hollywood to go to hell before. He said, he and I became good friends. James Earl Jones is a great actor. Nice
great
man.
Guy. Right. Wonderful actor, yeah. Yeah.
We're talking with Jack O Halloran.
I can imagine doing something like that in today's day and age is Larry David.
Oh, yeah.
You have I told him to stick it up his ass. Yeah, well, that's just the way it was.
So, I just walked away. And then they came to me to do Farewell, My Lovely, and I just retired from boxing, and I had a couple construction companies in Jersey, and I did a lot of commercials when I was California heavyweight champion. I lived in San Diego, and the woman that handled all that called me on the phone. She said, they want you to do a movie, and I think you should do it. I said, what film? She said, Farewell, My Lovely, with Robert Mitchum. I looked around where I was, and I was standing in a bar shooting pool, and I said, I think it's time. So they brought me out. I did a screen test with Harry Dean Stanton and a couple of people, and Mitchum said it's either him or I don't do the movie, and so it's all his fault.
And you didn't talk your way out of this one.
No, he got me.
That's great.
That's
great.
He was, I love
What
Mitchum.
a career you've had. What a career. It's unbelievable, Jack. This is so amazing.
Yeah. Oh,
absolutely amazing.
Jack, I have another question.
Sure.
Jack, this is Peter Trump. I have another question. We're speaking with Jack O Halloran. I want to know if Mickey Rourke. Don't say anything yet. I always liked Mickey Rourke. I thought he was a really good actor when he was young and before his 17 facelifts and all that stuff. I want to know something about. You can tell us any story you want about Mickey Rourke that you want, but I have to ask you this question. Was he a legitimate boxer, or was that all bullshit?
I'll tell you a funny story. Mickey had a gym down on Santa Monica Boulevard, and he lived there. He had a great apartment, and the gym was behind him. And Freddie Roach, the kid who trains Pacquiao and all, was just starting out then. And Mickey and Freddie lived in Mickey's gym. Freddie's an incredible young man, and I went down and I got involved back in boxing. I took a kid by the name of Frankie Lyles, and I made him super middleweight champion of the world. And I put the corner together, and we trained down in Mickey's gym. And Freddie Roach and a couple other people, and we put this kid together, and he was a very good southpaw that I took, and we we converted him around. They threw him out of the Kronk gym because they said he was boring. He was a southpaw. He ran and all this stuff. So he came out. I watched him. I was training in the Goose's gym, and I was watching this kid when he first came out. They sent him to the Goose's. And I watched him, and I looked at him, and I said, I went home to my old lady, and I said, you know what? I'm going to take this kid and make him world champion. She said, wow, that gave you something to do. That's a good idea. So I did. I took this kid, and I told him, if you listen to what I told him, I moved him in my house. I got him in the greatest shape he ever got in his life. And I put together a great corner. So the kid's training down in Mickey's gym. And Mickey says to me one day, I want to spar with Frankie. I said, Mickey, this kid's a world champion. You can't spar with him. He said, oh, man, I've had a lot of fights. Freddie Roach will tell you, I can fight. I can really fight. And he always used to work out, hitting the bags and stuff. I said, Mickey, you cannot get in the ring with this kid. It's my gym, he said. I want to spar with him. I said, huh? Okay. So I said to Frankie, do not hit him. He will fall apart. If you hit him, you're going to knock him out. Just don't hit him. He said, what am I going to do if he comes charging at me? I said, listen, you just move. Just move around, spin him around, So Frankie hit him a left jab. Oh, my God. A right jab. Frankie hit him a jab, and Mickey, fell to the floor. You thought he got killed. I said, holy cow. I said, you all right, man? Oh, geez, boy, that guy can really hit. So next day, 2 days later or something, I didn't see him for a couple of days. So I said to Freddie, I said, where's Mickey at? He said, he's up in front in his apartment. So I go up to see him because we were talking about doing a movie together. And I go up to see him, and I said, and he's got bandages all over his face. I said, wow, man, what happened to you? He said, Frankie cracked the orb in my eye, and I had to get plastic surgery. And I said, give me a break, man. And I love Mickey. Mickey's a good kid, he really is. And you're right. When he was younger, he was a brilliant actor. He did for Greenwich Village, boy. Unbelievable.
Yo, that was great with Eric.
Oh, he was monster.
That was great.
He was brilliant. He really was. Yeah. And you're right. 85 surgeries later, But he's still Mickey's a nice fellow. He's all right.
Yeah, he did the Pope of Greenwich Village with Julia Roberts' brother, Eric Roberts. Very good film. Very good film.
That's the best thing Eric did.
Yeah.
Best picture Eric ever did.
Super.
Yeah.
That was great.
Can we get back to Dick Christie, his brother, he never played in the pros.
Dick and Jimmy Christie. Jimmy did. Jimmy was a runoff. Jimmy played for the New York Titans, the Jets.
No, I think it was Dick that played for the New York Jets.
He also played for Philadelphia.
But it was Dick, not Jimmy.
I think it was. Wait a minute, God, I get confused sometimes. Might have been. No, I thought it was Jimmy Christie. Well, it was Dick. Right. Yeah, it was Dick.
The other one just never made the pros.
Oh, we never did. We all played in this farm team. Now they went to North Carolina. Pretty good football players. Went to St. James.
I have one other question, and then I'm going to turn it over to you guys, Peter Trunk and Ron Rabinovitz. I'm going to mention a name, and you tell me what comes to mind. Officer Tippett from Dallas.
Which one? There were two of them.
The one that was killed?
That's the guy that Oswald was supposed to have shot.
Didn't he?
Right. The whole thing about Oswald and people, it will all eventually come out. It comes out in drips and drabs as it is. Oswald was a patsy. Oswald's mother lived with a lieutenant from Carlos Marcellus in New Orleans. And Oswald thought he was going to be like the guy in And I Led 3 Lives, the television series. He was going to be this great government spy. And he worked actually for naval intelligence because they had gay bars down in New Orleans and Dallas and stuff. And he would go in there dressed in uniform with a microphone. and they would tape guys because it was not kosher to be gay and be an officer in the military at that time. And they were blackmailing these guys, you know. Mm-hmm. So he thought he was going to be this great spy. And when the Kennedy situation was being put together, Oswald was very close to, there were two guys that ran a garment district, Zapruder and his partner. And his partner actually was a pretty bright guy. He was engaged to Jackie Kennedy's sister, aunt, in New York. When they first came from Russia into New York, and Meyer, they lent him $250,000. They went down to Dallas and opened up the garment district. And so this guy was he was a Russian guy, and he taught Oswald Russian, and he hooked him up with the KGB girl that he married, and they developed this guy that was supposed to assassinate John Kennedy. And all the things, when you go through the things about Oswald, the fact that he got locked up the same time and the same day in two different places. One guy got locked up in New Orleans and one guy got locked up in Cuba. And Oswald couldn't be in two places at the same time, but there was a guy from the CIA who looked just like him. And they used this guy on several different occasions, and he came out of the CIA when the Bay of Pigs happened. And some people were very disgruntled because all those kids got slaughtered in that water because a guy named Joe Kennedy told his son, they don't need any ammunition in their guns. We don't want any mishaps to happen where somebody pulls a trigger and fires at somebody and creates an incident. And they all got butchered. They all got slaughtered. They got killed.
That too was a Joe Kennedy production.
Joe Kennedy, absolutely. So
wow.
Because what people don't know is that Joe Kennedy put money into Cuba as well as he did everywhere. He was two-sided street guy all the time. So, so Oswald, just like when he went to the shooting range and the guy was at the shooting range and he started shooting the targets at the guy next to him, and the guy screaming at him, hey, man, what the hell do you think you're doing? And the guy said, what do you mean? I'm Lee, and he screams, I'm Lee Harvey Oswald. Don't you know who I am? And like, trying to make a presence, you understand? Right. And when you research that whole thing, number one, it took them 3 months to reroute Kennedy's route down Dealey Plaza. That wasn't the way they were supposed to go.
No, that's
Number two, here you got the Byrd Building, which was owned by H.L. Hunt, and all the windows are open and people are walking around upstairs, and Kennedy's in a car, an open car below them, you know, and people are walking around and everything. Never happened in our history life. You know.
Is this the same Zapruder with the films? So he's headed up and
Zapruder, let me tell you about Zapruder. Had suffered from vertigo, and two women had him by the legs because he's up there high up with this camera that first time in his life he ever had a camera in his hand like that. For 28 seconds, he never took his finger off the button when bullets are flying all around them. There were 14 shots fired that day at Dealey Plaza. 14 shots were fired.
No.
And there was when there was a prison right across from the Byrd Building, and prisoners there could look right in the Byrd Building in the window where supposedly Oswald took these shots from. Yeah. And there were three guys in the window, and none of them were Oswald. Then you turn around and you say, okay, here's a mail-order rifle, bolt action, that was fired 3 times in 28 seconds. So you can ask anybody, whoever had anything to do with military or rifles, that has anything to do, they ever done any sniper shooting or any shooting at all, and ask them, when you're going to take a shot that's almost 1,000 feet away, and the variables are you're going down a hill in a car moving, There's trees, there's signs. The wind derelish in Dealey Plaza was phenomenal. So bad that the microphones on the motorcycle cops, they couldn't hear each other because the wind was really bad there.
Right.
It takes a marksman 60 seconds to arrest his heartbeat before he takes a shot like that because his pulse is in his finger and he has to have himself totally arrested so he can make an accurate shot and take in all the variables. So how are you doing 3 shots in 28 seconds? That ain't happening.
Yeah.
Not in real life. Understand? So the one bullet theory that they sold the public, which is bullshit, because Kennedy got shot 3 times.
Right.
First time he got shot was in the neck, and that came from the cauldron in the street from a guy named Johnny Roselli from Chicago. And the cauldron, which is cemented over today, if you went down there, it's all cemented over. That cauldron has a walking area that I could walk down from the river to the street.
Jack, was that by the Grassy Knoll?
Yeah, Grassy Knoll was right across the street from, it was right in the middle of Dealey Plaza.
And that's where he was
down
from.
Dealey Plaza. And then you had all these people walking out of the train station across the bridge. And one of them was Woody Harrelson's father, who was a hit guy from New Orleans.
Wow.
And they all got locked up. There were actually 30 people at Dealey Plaza that day that could have been an assassin, in actuality.
Really?
And
how many
Kennedy
do you think
gets shot.
shooting?
Kennedy gets shot the first time in the throat. You watch his hands go up to his neck and he falls forward.
Yep.
But they shot Connolly first, so he fell on top of Connolly, and he's in between the 2 seats. Then he got shot in his lower back, which they only talked about 8 years ago. The first medical guy came out and said there was a bullet hole in his lower back. And then the third shot was taken by the driver, who turned and just boom, because he was right there between the 2 seats in the car. And you see him fly backwards. You see him fly backwards, and his brains came out
of the car. The driver of the car shot him?
Yeah.
In the limousine that he was...
A Secret Service guy, right?
Secret Service guy, that's correct.
No kidding. Holy shit.
See, when you see the 28 missing frames...
We both said that simultaneously, Ronnie, and we've heard some of this before.
Yes, we have.
But it is... And we're hearing some new stuff to go with it.
Yeah.
Jack, this
is unbelievable.
Well, the driver of the car died about 6 years ago, I think, in Texas. And he did a bedtime confession before he died. His son, what's it called, that crazy wrestler show up in Minneapolis, sir. It's a known fact that he took the last shot, and Kennedy goes flying backwards, and his head comes out the back. So if you're being shot in the back of your head, why would your head fly out the back?
Right, exactly.
Jackie, if you look at the Zapruder footage, you'll see the Secret Service guy peeled away from Kennedy's car.
Yeah.
They had to run back up to the car after all the shooting started. And when Jackie was trying to get out of the car, and they said, she was trying to scrape his brains, that's bullshit. She was trying to get out of the car because she thought they were going to kill her next.
Yeah.
She got out of the car, and the Secret Service guys grabbed her. They whispered in her ear, if you mention one thing about what just happened here, your kids are dead. She never opened her mouth.
Unbelievable. She went to her grave like that.
Yeah, well, her diary, which her son was coming to Hollywood to make a film of when they killed him in an airplane,
Was he killed by somebody? Was he killed by
Jack
somebody?
Jr.?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the junior, in that airplane?
Yeah.
No kidding.
First of all, they should have never let him. They should have never let him take it off. He was high as a kite.
No. Yeah. Oh, and it was fog.
And he wasn't that great a pilot. And it was in a storm.
Right. Yeah. Right.
The plane was jimmy. The plane wasn't going to make it over there anyway. So.
No shit. Oh my God, man. Is this for that? Oh my God.
Oh, so she released this information, and they were going to make a film out of it.
But he was going to take his mother's diary, and because she wrote everything down, like Marilyn.
Yeah.
Marilyn Monroe's diary is going to surface very soon as well.
Yeah. Huh. Unbelievable.
It's about Marilyn Monroe's death will come out.
Yeah. Huh. Unbelievable. How did that happen? Who handled that?
Marilyn?
Yeah.
Marilyn was an amazing lady.
Yeah.
But she slept with Jack Kennedy and a host of other people, but she fell in love with Bobby.
With Bobby.
And when she tried to call Bobby to tell him that she was pregnant and she would take care of it like the other 13 abortions she had, he cut her off. She couldn't reach him. And she started drinking and taking pills and dialoguing, and she knew a lot, boy. She had a lot of pillow talk, that woman.
Yeah.
And she was, Sam Giancana took her up to Tahoe for the weekend, Big Calnab, where he owned that hotel up there, and spent the weekend with her and said, this lady's got to go,
Huh.
They put a suppository.
He owned that hotel.
Suppository in her rectum, right? Did they do a suppository in her rectum?
They put a suppository up her. She was dead. When they took her out of the house, when they took her out to take her to the hospital, she was already dead. They did that. Dead. They could go in and clean the house. They were looking for her diary, and they never found it because Hoover found it. Hoover's guy found it before Giancana's guy could get it.
Unbelievable.
And Hoover had it because if Jack Kennedy hadn't died, he wanted some ammunition against him because if he became president, Hoover was out of a job.
Yeah.
That's right. And Johnson wasn't going to be asked to run for vice president with them, was he?
No, it was a bunch of stuff that it'll all come out one day. People are going to find
unbelievable. Did
Johnson have anything have a piece of that action to kill Kennedy?
Johnson had nothing. Johnson was a playboy, a ploy as well. And I was at the house in Dallas the night before the killing. They had a party there called Egyptian Nights, and it was for Hoover. Hoover was the host of honor there, but there were a lot of people there. The guy from the banking guy McCoy from New York, and I was sent there by Meyer. It arranged for me to be there. I was on the ploy that I was going to play for the Dallas Cowboys, and Clint Murchison Jr. owned the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So I got in to go to this party, and I met a lot of people that I was told to be introduced to, and I watched Johnson when he came in after about 1 o'clock in the morning. When he came in from Fort Worth after Kennedy had arrived in Fort Worth, and then he came back to that party, and Nixon was there and a few other people, and they all went into a room. And Madeline Brown, who was Johnson's mistress, Johnson told her, he said, after tomorrow, the Kennedys will never be a problem again. So they knew something was going to happen, but you had like 4 different ploys. You had the CIA, you had the government. Everybody's angry at everybody.
Cuba, Russia.
Really knew who did what. But Kennedy's thing was planned by the bankers of Europe because they were a bit pissed off from the Depression. They were kind of angry at Joe Kennedy.
Right, and they went through the mafia to do it?
Well, they used everybody as a ploy. The guy who orchestrated it was you've all heard of a guy called the Jackal.
Yes.
Carlos Sanchez. That was the first job he ever did in America.
Huh. Wow.
He orchestrated.
Unbelievable.
He was the guy with the umbrella.
Huh. Unbelievable. This is fascinating. I'm like awestruck. So the bullet to Kennedy's head came from the driver of his limousine.
The last bullet, that went through his head,
Well, there was one bullet that was pristine, and it was lying next to the gurney.
That was a blowaway, man. Come on.
So we knew when I was 16 years old, we knew something was fishy. There was a book, Rush to Judgment, that came out within 6 months of the shooting, and raised a lot of questions.
Supposed to have fallen out of Connolly's wrist.
Right.
The book what? The book what?
The bullet came out of
that was supposed to come out of Governor Connolly's wrist.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all bullshit.
Unbelievable. Was that the one that went through Kennedy's back?
Kennedy got shot in the lower back. The bullet that hit him first went into his throat. And he used his hands. You watch his hands go up. He grabs his throat and he falls forward.
Yeah. Right.
And then he goes flying backwards. Because the guy just turned around and just shot him. Boom. The car was moving 11 miles an hour. He veered over to the left. He cut off the motorcycle driver. Instead of speeding up when the bullet started, he slowed down. He veered over to the left. He took the shot, and people say, well, how come it happened in 28 seconds? But there's footage. There's footage that shows him fire that shot.
No kidding.
That's the 28 missing frames out of the Zapruder film.
Oh, my God in heaven. Unbelievable.
Now, what evidence did they put away for 75 years? If they were going to do that, they had to be covering something up right there that tells you that it wasn't kosher.
Oh, sure. Sure, there's frames that are missing, right? Absolutely. That's the Zapruder film. Unbelievable. Did Bobby
the Zapruder film was sold before he ever shot it. It was sold to Life magazine in Chicago for $150,000.
Yeah.
And then no one saw it for a year.
Yeah. Unbelievable. And did Bobby get killed by the mob too?
Bobby got killed. Bobby's made a lot of people very angry.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
And when after what happened with Jack Kennedy, Meyer Lansky stood up in New York and said another Kennedy will never cross the White House steps again.
Wow.
And what people don't realize is they killed his first son, Joe. The bankers in Geneva.
No,
Joe Kennedy was the one that his father really wanted to be president.
Right, exactly.
And he was out of the service 2 weeks before he comes home.
Yeah.
And they put together this plane in England that was supposed to fly into the German munition factories like a kamikaze thing, you know?
Right.
End the war. And they put this whole elaborate thing together, and they needed a test pilot to pilot it, to try the plane out. And they talked Joe Kennedy into it. He was a great pilot. They talked him into it. And he went up in the air. The plane blew up. He was dead. Co-pilot was dead. A week later, they scrapped the whole deal. That plane never flew into any munition factory.
And was that plane Jimmy too?
What did I just tell you? The plane blew up. Joe Kennedy was dead.
Yeah. Jesus Christ Almighty.
Wow.
This is
and then the next guy to come up the bat is Jack, because Jack was a hell of a politician.
Right.
You got to get that.
Exactly.
But the whole marriage was bullshit. Jackie Kennedy's mother never forgave Joe Kennedy for what happened after the crash of 29. Because Blackjack Bouvier, who was her husband, and was the banking family for the Rothschilds, after they went broke of the crash because it was gimmicked against them, the guy drank himself to death. She never forgave him.
Oh my God. Yeah. Unbelievable.
George the Mournchild, who was Zapruder's partner, was engaged to her sister. She used to call...
Jackie's sister? Yeah.
Yeah, Jackie used to call him Uncle George when she was a kid.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable. And who killed Bobby then? Was it Saran or somebody else?
Saran spent 30 years in jail for nothing. when they did the ballistics test years later, they found out that it wasn't his gun that shot Bobby.
Whose gun was it?
The waiter,
Any idea?
Right? Was there a waiter?
Who knows?
Oh.
Who was it? The waiter?
What do
No,
I
I said that. I surmised, I think I heard that once, that there was a waiter involved, but I certainly don't remember where. And it doesn't sound like you know who the other shooter was, or the real shooter was, Jack. Jack?
You know, one of those things that when somebody asks you a question like that, you look at him and say, I'm just a country boy. What do I know? You know?
Good for you. Unbelievable.
All right.
And all of this stuff.
I think we lost Peter.
When I first wrote the book, people came up to me and they said, Jesus, man, aren't you afraid to tell all this truth and everything? I said, why? Because the people around me all want the truth to be told. They want it to be told. I said, why would I be afraid? They said, well, man, somebody's going to come and shoot you. I said, let me tell you something. Few have tried, a few have died, and I'm still sitting here talking to you.
Jack, you are living, it isn't past tense, probably the most fascinating life Ronnie and I know.
Ever have.
Ever have.
Right.
Unbelievable.
That's right.
It's a pleasure. I'm going to close it out because Peter seems to have lost the connect.
I'm here. You here? Yeah, I'm here. So I don't like to step. I don't like to step on people when they're talking because when I'm sitting over here listening on the phone, all I hear is Ronnie and you, and I can't hear Jack. And every now and then, Jack's phone cuts out on one word or two words or whatever. Uh-huh. Very difficult. So with three people jumping in there, that's horrible. But anyway, here we go.
Why don't you take over and close it out and ask him things that you've been dying to?
Well,
hey, Jack, will you come back again?
Sure.
Another time? Okay, great.
We're already in an hour and 13 minutes. And I don't know how.
There's no hurry. As long as you.
Okay.
You guys
let's close it. Let's close the show out with a little less Sean Hannity and a little more factual stuff, not things that no one can prove. Tell us, Jack O Halloran, what is the problem with the Superman franchise? Can you tell us what's wrong with it?
Well, you have two people, the Salkind family, who were, hustlers in the movie business. They had a franchise in their hands that could have been magnanimous. When we originally went into this thing, we thought we were doing 10 films. And Christopher, that's the first thing he ever did of any standing. And as soon as it came out, his name got bigger and bigger and bigger. And the Salkinds, all they cared about was what they could rob at the first beginning of the whole deal. I mean, the reason for them getting rid of Donner was ridiculous. They owed Richard Lester a picture. And they fired Donner because they didn't want to pay him. The same as Superman 2, they cut Brando out of a picture. How do you cut Marlon Brando out of a picture? But you'll see all that footage in the Donner cut, which comes out 26 years later when they did the Donner cut of Superman 2. It's just the Salkinds stole a lot of money, and they didn't care about the franchise. They didn't care about the fan base. They had an amazing franchise in their hands. They had two pictures, 1 and 2, which were epic. I mean, we broke every rule in technology, and we did things that made that picture what it is. Still, people watch it today. It's better than any of the Supermans made because they got darker and darker and darker, and it just made no sense. When you're talking about the very first superhero of a country. Why would you do that? It's all about, like greed, man,
Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
Why did you and Reeves not get along?
Sorry?
From what I've read, you and Reeves did not get along.
And, isn't that we didn't get along? People blew some things way out of proportion. What the one problem we had was there was an Italian restaurant in London owned by some friends of mine. One of the first Italian restaurants in London. And it was, and Meyer used to go there. We all went there because he was a dear friend from Italy. And anyway, I used to take everybody from the studio to go in there to eat dinner. And now it's one of the biggest paparazzi restaurants in Beach and Place, San Lorenzo. Huh. And Lorenzo was a super guy. His wife was wonderful, Mara. They never saw two people work a floor better than these people. And Lorenzo was close to me, because we were friends, and So one night he calls me on the phone and he says, "How well do you know this Christopher Reeve kid?"
Yeah.
I said, "I'm doing a picture with him." And I said, "Why?" I said, "They come into the restaurant. Was there a problem?" He said, "No, Jack." He said, he's saying things that he shouldn't be saying about you and your father and New York and different things. This kid, I don't think he's got the right to say. Not my place, but I'm just telling you, I think he's talking out of school." So the next day I go into the set, and I can't wait to see this kid now. And I grab him, and we go in a room, and I said to him, "How well do you know me, son?" And he said, "Well, I know you from the set here." I said, "Well, what gives you the right to go in and talk about me, my father, or anything from my past in a restaurant openly?" And he said, "Well, everybody talks about it. You come from this and come from that and who you are and this and that." And I said, "Let me say something to you. Next time you mention my name, you say Mr. in front of it. And if I ever hear you talk about my family again, son, your film career is over." And we walked out of the room. And as soon as we got outside in the hallway, he thought he was Superman again. And he started screaming, "You can't talk to me that way." Da, 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 da. I said, "I'll be a mother." So I grabbed him and I put him against the wall, and I was just ready to smack the shit out. And Richard Donner came up, whispered in my ear. He said, "Not in the face, Jack. Don't hit him in the face." I broke out laughing, and I dropped him on the floor. And I said, "Oh, just stay away from me." And I never had another conflict with the kid because he never came near me again. He knew about it. So, nice kid. He's just very naive.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that was his first gig, his first major gig. First one. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
He became nicer after his accident, though, right, Jack?
Nicer after his accident. That's the truth. He really, he stood kids up and shit like that and stuff. Things you shouldn't do. But after he got hurt, which he got hurt for his own fault. Yeah. There was too much force under him, and he should have had a helmet on, and he thought he was Superman, didn't need a helmet, he could handle the horse and all this stuff, and bang, gets thrown off, hits a rock, and boom.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Then he became a very humble kid.
Huh, yeah.
Did a lot of great work at the end of his life.
Yeah, he did a lot for injuries and stuff, and he did a lot of great stuff after that. Yeah. I didn't dislike him. He just, it just wasn't my cup of tea.
I understand.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, Jack!
How about we call it a night and we close the barn door? I'd like to thank our guest, Jack O Halloran. I'd like to thank my buddies, both Ron Rabinovitz and Ralph Zig Tyko. I'm Peter Trunk, and I would like to thank our listening audience. Thank you very much for a great show, and perhaps we'll have you back again, Jack. And good night, gentlemen.
We'd love to have you back, Jack. Thank you.
Thank you both for having us.
Okay.
Be well.
Take care.
Adios.
Thanks, Jack. Okay. Bye-bye.